downloading and installing Kali Linux. Along with that, we'll also be looking at the basic commands that are required for Kali Linux. Alright, so I've opened my browser and we want to go to the Kali website. So we want to go to kali.org. You can directly type in kali.org and go to the website. I can just do a Google search and say Kali download, and it will give you the same website, but it will directly take you to the downloads pages. So either here or you can go to the home page. Cookies are being installed on your machine, so see which cookies you want to allow. I'm only going to use the necessary cookies to support this site, and you can see that this gives you the latest Kali Linux news and tutorials, gives you the latest release, what is in that release, and gives you a lot of documentation which will help you understand what tools have been developed and what functionality has been given in the latest version. If you want to download, you can directly go here and you can download Kali Linux. Now, Kali Linux is a 2.6 gigabyte download, so it's going to take time, the latest version being 2019.4. And we click over here. I'm using a download manager to manage all these huge downloads, and you can see it's pointed to the operating systems folder, and it is going to be a 2.57 GB download. So we click on download, and in the background, you can see this is going to be downloaded, and we're going to minimize this. And it will take a few minutes for that to download, but this is an ISO image, so we need to install it on a virtual machine. So what we need is we need to use a hypervisor which will allow us to create virtual machines. So we can either use VMware Workstation, which you can download from here. However, this is paid version, so you can see it is around $250 or something for this software, but it is a very good software to have. So if we click on download now, it is going to start the download. It's a 30-day trial period if you want to use it. After 30 days, you'll need to enter the key, which you'll get after purchasing the software. If you do not want to utilize this, the free version that you have, you can either download VMware Player, but there are some limitations for VMware Player that you might want to look at. You want to compare these products before you want to purchase them, right? Otherwise, you can download Oracle VirtualBox, which is a free hypervisor. It's not as robust as VMware Workstation, but it does the trick, right? So the free version 6.1 is free, and you can then create your own virtual machines over there and install operating systems on them. What I already have a VMware Workstation installed, so I'm just going to open that up, and that's my VMware Workstation. As you can see, I already have a lot of virtual machines created over here. What we are going to do is we are going to configure a virtual machine for the Kali Linux operating system that we are downloading, which should be somewhere here. Let's see, it's at 43%, so halfway there. Till then, let's create the virtual machine. So I click on File, create a new virtual machine. I'm going to customize the machine, so click on Next. This leave it default, we don't want to change that, and then we want to install the operating system later. We don't want to point it out right now, so I'll just click on I will install the operating system later. Click on Next. We want to install Linux. Now in the drop down you would not see Kali Linux over here. However, you can choose Ubuntu 64-bit. That's what I'm going to choose. There it is. Next. What is the name that we want? I want to give it Kali Linux without the typo, and I want to store it in one of the folders that I've created. By default, it stores on the C drive, which is not a good place to store. You don't want to run out of space on your C drive. So I'm going to click on this PC, and this is my data, and in here I'll have a folder called VirtualBox or Virtual Machines. There it is, within which you can see the other softwares that I already created. I'm going to create a new folder and call it Kali 2019 L. L for is latest for me because you can see I already have a Kali Linux. So I'm just going to identify this folder with the L at the end. Going to select it and click on OK. You can see the path being changed over here. Click on Next. It's going to ask you how many processors. Now, depending on the processor that you have, you can see I've got an 8-core i7. So if I give it 16 cores or 16 processors, that's not going to work. I cannot go beyond what the physicality already is. So for this machine, one processor with 1 core is more than enough. If you're going to use a lot of tools at the same time, you might just want to give it 2 cores. So we're giving it 2 cores. It will ask us for RAM to be provided for this virtual machine. By default, 2048 megabytes. That's 2 GB of RAM is more than enough. If you require more, we can change this later on. So click on Next. We want to use NAT for now. Leave this default. Next. Whatever is recommended, keep it the way it is. We do not want to change it. Next. Create a new virtual hard disk for this machine. and it is going to ask us the size. 20 GB is more than fine. Store it as a single file. We don't want to use multiple file options. Click on next, and then click on browse where we want to store the VMDK file or the virtual hard disk file. And we go back again to the same folder that we had created, virtual machines, and we look at the Kali Linux Kali 2019 L, and we want to store the VMDK file over there. Once we save it, we want to click on next, and then we want to click on finish. So this is the virtual machine that has been created right here, right? Now this is the basic configuration. Now where are we at with the operating system? And you can see the operating system has been downloaded and it is stored in this particular folder. So we go to E drive. So we are looking for the operating system that we have downloaded. We downloaded it in the operating systems folder, and if we go in here, you can see the current one, the Kali Linux 2019.4 ISO right here. So what we do, we go back to the Kali Linux machine that we have created, edit virtual machine settings, and we point this virtual machine using the CD DVD, and then we point the ISO, the one that we downloaded over here. So we go back to E drive, we go back to OS, and we click on Kali Linux 2019, click on open. So now when this boots up, it will boot up with this ISO, and then it will allow us to install the operating system. So click on OK. Then we click on power on this virtual machine. It will start powering on. It will boot to the ISO and it will start giving us the booting options. So I'm just going to enter the full screen mode over here for this to be better visible. And we don't want the live mode. What we want is we want to use the graphical install. And then we highlight that, we press enter, and you can see the setup starting up. We'll wait for the GUI to pop up. There it is. Which language do we want? For now we want English. Click on continue. Where are we located? Click on continue. And the configure your keyboard. We want the US keyboard, American English. Continue. It is going to detect the hardware. So as you can see on the screen, it's attempting auto configuration for most of these settings. The network with DHCP, it has identified the network cards, hardware like the processor that has been provided. Now it is asking for a host name. We're going to leave it at default. We're going to click on continue. Domain name, I'm not joining this into a domain as yet. This is going to be a standalone machine, so I can leave this blank. Click on continue. Now it is going to configure the network. It is asking for a password at this point in time, the root password. Type in any password that you want. Ensure that you remember the password. Now by default, the username for the account is the word root. We are just creating the password for the root account. And then we want to click on continue. Setting up the clock, looking at the hard disks. Now here it asks us, do we want to use the entire disk, the 20 GB virtual hard disk that we had provided, or do we want to give it a manual configuration or a guided one where we want encryption and a logical volume management coming into the picture. We're just going to use the first option, guided use entire disk. Don't worry, it's only going to use the virtual disk that we had created. Click on continue. It will give us that it's a 21.5 GB VMware virtual disk that we had. And click on continue. All files in one partition, that's what we want, recommended for new users, whatever it is. We don't want to change these folders. Continue, and this is what we have configured. Once we click on continue, it is going to say, are you sure you want to make these changes? Click on yes. Click on continue, and it will start installing Kali Linux on your device. Now this is going to take a few minutes for the installation to work. Alright, so that's the installation that's completed. Now it's asking us to configure a package manager. A network mirror can be used to supplement the software that is included on the installation media. This may also make newer versions of software available. Do you want to use a network mirror? We can click no for now, and then click on continue. Now this is going to install the grub bootloader. This might take a few minutes as well. Install the grub loader to the master boot record. Yes. Click on continue. Click the hard disk that you have just utilized. This is the one. Click on continue. It will install the grub bootloader, running through the last phases of the installation. And now it says the installation is complete. We want to click on continue, finishing the installation, and then it will do a reboot. Alright, and you can see this is starting up. So we are going to you just wait out the boot, and now it started the booting sequence. Just going to maximize the screen. And you can see it's asking me for the password. This is the one that we created. Now that's not the password, that's the username, that's the root, and the password that we had created at that point in time. And then click on log in. And this is your screen. Help us manage the screen and help the virtual machine to be a little bit better integrated on the system. So that's not mounted yet, so we're just waiting for it to mount. There it is. And what we want to do here is open VMware Tools Upgrader. Alright, so what we want is we want to extract, or we want to use this OpenX archiver, and once we do that, we'll see the VMware install.pl. Double click on that. Alright, we've got the VMware tools here. What I've done is we have extract to, and I've extracted that on the desktop, right? So what we just did was click on the desktop over here, open, and this is what it will do. And click on extract. Now the error is happening because I've already extracted this. Open this up. We want to run this VMware install.pl. So what do? We open up the terminal window, which is the command line interface over here, and now this is where some of the commands come into the picture. So